What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Mostly Occasionally Show. I'm Brandon Wenerd, the publisher of BroBible.com. Hey, look, we're in person. It's the very first studio edition of the Mostly Occasionally Show. I'm here in Los Angeles, and today I'm joined by my buddy, Jake Jolly, who's a producer for Fox Sports. Now, here's the thing about Jake Jolly. You might not know him personally, unless you're really into the jam band world, but you probably know his work if you watch football, college football, NASCAR, basically anything that Fox Sports broadcasts. Jake has become sort of known in music circles for peppering in eccentric music, specifically from the world of the Grateful Dead and Phish, into his broadcasts. And every time you hear those songs in a NFL game or a college football game, you always see Twitter popping off. And these days, everyone goes straight to Jake and says, Jake, good work. We loved it. I see Jake at shows all the time around Los Angeles, and I wanted to have Jake on in order to talk about this. It's fun to hear about his fandom as a music fan, and of course, his work in sports. This will be the very first in-studio edition, I should say, of the Mostly Occasionally Show, and I am thrilled to have my buddy, Jake Jolly, on. Thanks for listening. Hit the subscribe if you're into it. We saw each other at JRAD, all right? Yes. And JRAD, that was the right after Phil Lesh died.
Yes.
So it was sort of a very tender, that was the Saturday after Phil Lesh died. So it was pretty tender, I would call it a pretty emotional concert experience to experience the Grateful Dead's music at the Greek, in the context of, Phil passing.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that? Show?
JRAD to me is it's one of those where it's like the show, when you see it on the calendar and stuff like that, you see it coming up, you're like, I may go to it, I may not, I don't know. Then when you get closer and closer, you almost have to talk yourself to going into it, at least I do.
Yeah.
I don't have to twist my arm too much, but once you get there and you're listening to it, it's like, why would I ever think not to go to the show at the Greek, beautiful setting, and they're jamming the Dead songs, and plus after Phil passed away, and it's just, I don't get to see him as much anymore. I haven't really seen that much at all, but when I see him, it's like, man, these guys are so damn good.
It's so good. It's so good, and I'm totally with you on that experience where you are kind of it's like a toss up if you really are gonna go.
Right.
When it falls on a Saturday night, it's a lot easier to talk yourself into it.
Exactly. Even for me, sometimes I usually work on weekends, but if I have to work Friday, and an open Saturday night for me is I know the wife doesn't want to go to that, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go, and it's not like a show where it's gonna be packed, or it was packed, but it wasn't like you can get a ticket, you can kind of move around, and it's just perfect. And I think I asked you the questions, is there a more successful cover band than JRAD? That are just doing covers pretty much.
I can't think of any. Well, I can't think of any off the top of my head.
But
because
have filled the Greek?
No, definitely not. I mean, you could maybe argue that when Primus was doing the Return to Kings thing with Rush, that was awesome. Sick. Yeah. But that was the same show every night, and JRAD's obviously their whole thing is we're gonna be a layer in the spirit of the Grateful Dead.
Right.
I just I'm so with you that it's I don't know if I want to go, whatever, and then you do.
You're like, what?
And you're like why would I even question it?
Right, exactly. It's that's a perfect description for me for JRAD.
Yeah, and then that same week we both were at the same David Gilmour show at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yes, that was another one. I just kind of was looking around. I think you kind of said you're going there. A couple guys from work were going to go. I think one went the day before. So I'm just is this, I don't know if I'm going to see this, but I might as well go. It's Hollywood Bowl. Hollywood Bowl is always it's great to get there, but it's
it sucks to leave. There's a lot of bullshit
but
around
there's
the
also
Hollywood Bowl.
if you want to I guess if you're trying to see a band you haven't really seen, you want to be up close a little bit because you're just not going to be able to see it. And even with David Gilmour, they didn't have the monitors going, but at least they had their screen and stuff. But because I wanted to see, I was worried. I was like, I need to see Dave shred a little bit. So at least they had the monitor behind him where you could see a little bit of him jamming and stuff. But that's Hollywood Bowl was and then if you want to get up close for a show like that, you're it's a second mortgage pretty much.
Dude, well, were you in the garden level?
No,
there
I was right above it. But the thing was, it was just, that's another thing. It's like when you're not really locked in to going, you can kind of you can just play it like a stock market pretty much. And it's like you want to you finally see something. All right, I'm willing to pay that, and it was just me. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to go. And it's like we said, it's so much easier when it's just one. I don't mind paying a little extra. The seat next to me was not filled, so I was like, oh, this is even better. Nice. Yeah, so
they were watching the Dodgers with the World
exactly. That was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool. That's another. I couldn't get all the ones I was going to ask. Well, they're going to be watching the Dodgers. He's going to be watching the Dodgers. So he's not. So everyone was probably on Dodger watch.
What did you think of the actual show that Gilmore did?
I think you kind of described it the best because it was a blast of nostalgia. I think with the lights, he sounds unbelievable. He sounds great. The whole band sounds great. Maybe a little bit of I don't know how to describe it. Just like when he brings his daughter out and it's a little bit of a showcase sometimes. Selfishly, I would have loved a few more Pink Floyd songs, but he played some great Pink Floyd songs, which is probably why I wanted more. So, but I get it. And his new stuff was actually pretty good. I didn't mind it at all. I love the lights. The lights were old school.
Dude, the lights blew my mind because I was like, this is could you imagine in the 80s when laser technology is not that old at all? Now we're sort of spoiled on it, but could you imagine going to a Pink Floyd show and experiencing that for the first time? That's truly a mind-blowing spectacle.
Yes. It's just with those songs and with those lights and, everything else that's probably going on in the world, in that, in your realm at that time. So it's, it did give you a nice little nostalgia rip.
Yeah. I wish I would have heard him do Have a Cigar.
Yeah.
And some of those other 80s.
Learning to Fly would have been awesome. I feel like he's just I don't really know much about. I mean, I know him obviously, but I know about him, but I don't really know how he views these kind of tours. I mean, he only did it was 2 cities, right? He did LA and New York.
Yeah.
Or 2 in America.
2 in the US.
In the US. Yeah. And then so it's I love that these older acts are doing that. No full-blown tour, which kind of sucks for people around, but for us in LA, it's great. But I do like how, all right, we're going to put everything into 4 shows here in the States, and we're going to blow it out. But so I don't know how he feels. I'm not coming just to sing the hits or something like that. I don't know if he just if he's like that or not.
I think he probably is. I think he also, even though there's the beef between him and Roger Waters, I feel like somebody in the David Gilmour camp must pay attention to what Roger Waters does so he can go the other direction, and it's not too much overlap.
Right. That's it's funny because people my wife for one, she's like, well, is Pink Floyd are they still around? No, they're sort of trying to explain to her Roger Waters did some song, he did some song, they don't see eye to eye. He's all over the place, and David's kind of me was kind of he's just been there. I've never really heard if you love music and you're popular culture, what Roger Waters stands with his stance and stuff.
Of course.
If you're the same way, I kind of don't know what Dave Gilmour is or not. He could be whatever. I just don't know. It's I think I mentioned, I was I almost in 15 years, am I going to see Tom York of Radiohead going? I know he's doing some solo stuff now, but is he going to do this tour where he's just going to
100%
play his,
it'll be him and Johnny Greenwood.
Yes, exactly. But they'll just play maybe 2 or 3 Radioheads that you really want to hear. Then it's going to be all this other stuff because it's what it's what he does.
Yeah. So. I just thought that was such an interesting night of music, especially when you threw the Dodger, especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Because throw the context of the Dodgers winning the World Series at set break.
Perfect timing. It was unbelievable. I mean, I think I was walking to get a beer. And everyone was just going crazy. And I guess it's one. And there wasn't too many. I didn't see too many during the show. People watching. I'm sure there was a lot there, but around us, I was expecting to see a lot of that. Because I wanted to get a shot of it, but I didn't see it. I didn't really look very hard, but I didn't see it.
Our neighbors, they had they brought like earbuds and they were listening to the call on Sirius XM. Like they had the app up and they were listening to the call. They did like the whole like it was a husband and wife, like they both had an earbud in each ear, like next to each other, and then like another ear, like to listen.
So listening to the concert, listening to radio. Wow.
And like they were getting really excited about the call, and that's when my fiance and I were like, oh, the Dodgers are gonna win.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I know. Because we left. I left for the Hollywood Bowl thinking like, all right, there's going to be another game. They're going to come back to LA because the Yankees were killing them.
That was exactly what I thought. But then when
you go back and you watch that inning, I'm getting a little sports here, but you watch that inning and like how the Yankees just imploded. Like he misses the line drive, and like Garrett Cole doesn't cover, and Rizzo is just lazy and all that stuff. Yeah. I'm like, what a terrible way to like. I'd rather just be blown out. Like that inning's gonna linger.
Haunt people.
It's gonna haunt
for
a lot
of very long time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I think now the meme I've seen was the best one is like the curse of the jabroni of the guy taking the ball out. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Yes.
I mean, my God, the guy just took the ball out.
The curse of the jabroni.
Yes. So yeah, I wish I could take credit for that. That was really good. That's like that could be it.
Yeah.
People are gonna mention that if they don't win it now.
It was kind of crazy because after that show, we took the bus back to the west side from the Hollywood Bowl afterwards, and we sat next to this older guy, like born and raised Angelino. He was wearing like a old school Dodgers like Letterman jacket,
love it.
And he was in tears because of, it was like a really powerful sports moment. But he also had just seen David Gilmour too. And he thought the exact same thing. Yeah. He thought that they were going to bring it back and win it. He even showed me his ticket to the game for what would have been game six.
Wow.
Yeah, at Dodger Stadium. And he was in tears, and he was like, I was so mad I never got to see Pink Floyd. I had to see Pink Floyd, like something with Pink Floyd.
And of course his team wins the World Series.
At the same point in time as the same night as like team won the World Series. And I was like, this is a very conflicting number of emotions you have here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that guy slept that night, man. I don't know how you could come down from that. You
Definitely not.
Finally see part of Pink Floyd, and then your team wins the same night.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, I was living in Detroit like the last Pink Floyd tour, and I wasn't able to see any of it, and blah blah blah. And I'm like reading them. I'm like, okay, well here's details on the parade. Like you gotta
nice. Getting them down there.
Here's what you gotta do on Friday.
All right, so you gotta take the day off, get down there early. All that. I love that. Oh yeah, so many Dodger fans. Like in my work, there's all these. They're fans, and I'm just like I play with them. I rip them and stuff. I'm just all kind of jealousy though. For me, I'm a Reds fan. I'm like
been a while.
I'd love to have like an owner or a franchise that like they don't care. They just want to win.
Yeah.
But they don't care what they're going to spend money to win.
Mid-market, man.
They market. It's big market. And, they're $8 billion TV deal, all that stuff. That's why I bring up to all the fans. They want to act like we're a great farm system. We shuffle all this. Like, what? Yeah, that helps. But it also helps when you can spend about $1 billion. 1, 2 player, 3 players in the offseason.
I mean, they did 100% buy a World Series.
But then again, I'm like, well, then I like it. It's like, they want to win. Like that team or that front office does not care about a bottom line because they have the money. It's easy to not care about a bottom line when you have, $1 billion check coming in every year. But it's like, I'm envious of that. I'm envious.
Of course. Right? Well, what would it take for Cincinnati to ever be able to compete?
I'm already like Cincinnati to if as we're taping this last night, the Bengals just completely peed on themselves again because again like for their fans if you weren't a Bengals fan, you watch them all year, like they're entertaining. Like I was texting my buddies, like, God, if I wasn't a Bengals, like they do the most entertaining games because it's always back and forth and like the defense can't, so it's good. But it's just like the way a Cincinnati sports fans' minds work now is like right now we have one of the most exciting baseball players in Ella De La Cruz.
Yeah.
But all we can think of is like, well, how are we going to re-sign him? How are we going to re-sign him? Because I just know I'm going to see him play shortstop in L.A. or San Francisco or somewhere. I just, in my mind, I can't see them sign it. I hope they do, but it's like, it's just hard. It's so you're always looking at the glass half empty because you've just been burnt so many times.
Yeah.
Since like it's been a while.
Well, he will be courted by someone with more money.
Right. And I don't blame Elliott at all. I mean, this kid is like, he's one of the most exciting players to watch. And it's like it stinks that, we being the Reds kind of found him and got him and then you can't afford him.
So Jake, imagine you are the GM of the Bengals right now. What are you doing to that disaster?
I would fire myself. I can't be. I would there's no way I would have that team. It's criminal that what they're doing to this Super Bowl window that they have now with a quarterback like Joe Burrow and receivers like Higgins and Chase. Not signing, the jury's still out what they're going to do with Chase now, but I'm sure they're going to sign him. But, stringing Higgins along, he gets hurt, all that stuff. But, not addressing a lot of other stuff, like letting our safe Jesse Bates go, letting DJ Reader go, for plug and play, and their draft picks have not hit.
Yep.
So it's just like...
You have franchise guys.
Yes, this is our window. This is NFL. I tell this to all my buddies, when you talk about Mike Brown, who's the owner of the Bengals, being cheap, all that stuff. He is cheap, and it's even worse because every team gets about a check, roughly about $300 million a year. $300 million a year before they sell any ticket for anything for the TV deal.
Yep.
And they have a salary cap, so you're almost forced to compete. It's impossible for you to have 3 or 4 down years. That's why the NFL is great.
You have to spend the money.
Spend the money.
You have to.
Yes. When you have to spend the money, keep the guys you want to keep, and then hit on your draft picks. And the Bengals have done none of that so far on defense. And so if I was a GM, but to answer your question, I think you got to get rid of the DC coordinator. He's going to be sadly, he's probably going to be the scapegoat. Mike Brown just doesn't fire coaches.
Yeah.
So, Zach Taylor.
That's sad.
Yeah, he's, I was a big Zach Taylor guy a little bit, but then but it's hard for me. I think more of Zach Taylor to me is just what he says after. I just don't think he has respect or command. He's got that offense humming. So it's people blaming Zach. This offense is humming. He's calling good plays. Burrow and Chase have never been better. But he's kind of hamstrung by a front office and by a family that's just not going to spend money. So I feel for him, but
yeah, you're also gonna. I think this happened last night too, where you see how it's in everyone's head now.
Yeah.
Too, and it's in your franchise players' heads.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you're not gonna recover that. You're not gonna recover that.
No.
With simple on the field moves.
There's got to be. You hope they address some issues, and what they'll do now, as we're stating this podcast, they will go on a little bit of a run. They'll screw up their draft pick.
Yeah, they
won't have any they'll have a bad draft pick, and then then we're back to drafting 18th or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Well, I think we should talk about Phish. Because
what a great topic,
dude! It's the best. Right. It's the best. I'm sorry to kill sports, but we are. Yeah. But I think the thing that's interesting about it, though, or I think it hits right on the conversion. And this is what I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about, Jake. You've become, whether people know it or not, you are the guy. Right. You are the wizard behind the curtain. That is that's pushing the buttons to. Inject a little bit of music that hasn't traditionally been in sports broadcasting.
A little jam band, yeah.
A little jam band, peppered tastes to massive audiences. Yes. And the ones that know, not everybody knows.
Right.
But
right. No, that's the beauty of it, actually. It's the kind of beauty. If you know, you know. If you don't, didn't really bother you. It's not.
When did you work it in for the very first time?
I think, there's a couple ways. The very first big time was I think it was 2015, the Super Bowl, which was the Patriots Falcons.
Yeah.
In Houston. That was a 28-3 game, all that stuff. So when Fox does the Super Bowl, we get to do produce these videos that play right before the team runs out. So sometimes you get like a celebrity to like announce whatever. It's like a little sizzle reel to come out. So I was doing those, and I did one for the Patriots and did one for Falcons, and I was like, Tweezer would be so awesome, and like the crescendo, everything is just perfect on this. So that was the first time. Like Ving Rhames.
The first time was the Super Bowl.
Yes, right. Like actually, like they were like featured pretty much. Like, all right, this is going to be, and this is like I not knowing, I just did it because it's a great song for 90 seconds, and like it's built. Ving Rhames was doing the voiceover. He was awesome. He didn't know about the song, but he's like, that was my first like introduction, like directing for like he's like a classical, like he knew every line, everything, and he was just like, he'd do it, and he'd look at me like, notes, what do you got? Come on, give me some notes. It's like so good. And like just that voice, because he was just getting going with the Arby's thing. So it was like everyone's like, oh, that's the Arby's guy. It's like, yeah. So, but that's a aside. So that was fun. So that was the first time. So
I mean, that was a massive moment.
Yeah, huge moment. So, and I didn't realize, like, so you do the game, and game's crazy. It's an unbelievable game. The comeback, all that stuff. So you're high on the emotion of it. OT and all executives are high fiving because there's extra money.
I mean, that was like I think that was like the ratings were they're always nuts, but like the ratings were nuts.
Anytime you get an extra commercial in, like that's when you see all the executives afterwards. They got their cigars, they're going crazy, so they're happy because of the overtime. But so we're driving back to the hotel, and I get a text from my cousin. He's like, dude, have you seen what's going on? Did you do those videos? I was like, yeah. He's like, he sent me this snapshot of like a article that I think, God, what's that article? Relics did.
Nice.
And then they had it, and they had who's Phish's old tour manager?
Brad Sands.
Brad Sands was watching the game, and he texted Trey. He's like, hey man, are you watching these videos? And like Trey. Like they snapshotted the text message. Like Trey's like, my mind's blown. It's like, I guess I have to be a Falcons fan tonight. So that's when like my cousin was like, dude, it's like people definitely picked up on that. So within that little community, it got a little bit of play, all that stuff. And then I think then when it started coming in regularly with Phish, and even then after that, I didn't think like, well, I'm going to start using this a lot more or whatever. I thought it was just cool. I was like, oh my God, like Trey was watching like the video and like mentioned. So that was a cool moment for me. But then when Fox first got Thursday Night Football, just probably 2 years after that. So one of the executives at Fox, so it was our crew doing it. Our crew being like, there's a producer director, I was sort of the AP on that crew, AD, AP. So. And one of the executives was like, hey, we're going to do this. 'Cause I was still doing college. So, but what you could do for us for this Thursday night is help out whatever you can. But I want you to just come up with some new music. Like, we need to update our music library. We can go to breaks and stuff. And I'm not just talking like classic rock, all that stuff. Let's get, into it. I was like, all right, sounds like a great idea. So it was like a great little, chore. But so you come up with all this stuff, and of course I threw some Phish in there and all that stuff. And
do you remember what Phish you threw in there?
I think Tweezer was probably the first one. Tweezer, and then Chalk Dust. So like just like some of like the you would just want 10, 12 seconds. Just like the bangers that are like, even if you don't know Phish, like you would never know that was, you didn't know that. Like it just sounded like, if someone didn't know Phish, it probably just sounded like some library track to break, or you didn't even listen. So we're playing it, and I think it was during one of the games, I get a text from a guy, Peter Schrager, a reporter. Love Peter's awesome. So he's in tune to all this popular culture stuff. And during the game, he texts me and he's like, hey, are you playing this Phish to break? I think I put a Mo in there too. So I was like kind of pushing a lot of it. And I said, yeah. And he's like, dude, I'm like getting texts nonstop from my buddies, and they're wondering what's going on. And he's like, hey, do you mind if I tweet your handle out and say, hey, if you guys are wondering, this is the guy doing it. And he did it, and he tweeted it out, and he said, hey, if you're wondering where you're hearing, he actually wondered what song it was. It was Tweezer. It's like, if you're wondering how you just heard Tweezer on Thursday Night Football, you can thank this guy. Like, put my name on it. So literally from that point on, just kind of like, it just grew kind of organically a little bit, where it's like, all right, I'm going to throw a couple in there, and I get a couple requests on,
of course,
a couple guys like you know him, Scott Marks. Like he's like the.
Yeah.
I didn't know him at all until he kind of hit me on Twitter, and he's like, "Hey, here's a couple songs that might work." He had like First Tube and a couple other ones, a few other ones. I was like, yeah, those are perfect.
Dude, you were able to farm out some producers here.
Exactly. So it's like, it just grew from there, and it's like, so you just have some fun with it. Then you throw in some Mo, you put in.
Widespread. You have some Widespread.
Love Widespread.
Yeah.
Just some of the songs that, even like Allman Brothers, Tedeschi Trucks, it's just stuff that it's not like you're playing them the whole time. Like I'm still doing like the Jock Jam stuff and all that. And
well, it's interesting because like it's created sort of a little, whether intentional or not, it's created like almost like a watermark for what a Fox Sports broadcast is. Like in its own little way.
It's a little like, it's like I've kind of given up on it, but like, it's weird because it's weird just how internet, social media, you kind of get an eye of it. But if anything plays on no matter what network, if it's like Shakedown Street on CBS, like, oh, Jolly's doing stuff. It's like, no. Like all the baseball stuff. Like I'm trying to go the guy.
I saw the baseball stuff. I saw people tagging you on it. And I was like, oh no, I can't blow Jolly's cover. There's actually like
I try to do it. It's a guy named Joe Karp, who's like he's an audio mixer, huge, like he's the same way as me. But he's like, but he'll, he does the baseball. And he does a lot. So he also, I think he probably goes a little overboard. Sometimes I'm like, all right, God, you got to be a little subtle, dude. You can't You
got to throw some like Future in there too, or something
in there. So he's out in his own world. But I try to say every time, hey, it's Joe Karp he's manning the controls for World Series. But no, it's just kind of. I'm just like, all right, just kind of just ignore it.
Have you thrown like Phish and Jam stuff in NASCAR packages too?
Yeah. It doesn't hit as much, but
right, of course,
doesn't hit as much. Even like I do it all. Like my college games are a lot more. Like when I get to when I'm producing college football, there's a lot more Phish in there, just because I'm controlling it more. And
exactly,
it's a college game, and you know, I've wanted to do like for the longest time like any college game, but just pick like a set list from like '98. Like Nutter Center or something like that. And just like start from beginning and like minus like injuries or something where you can't really play, but just go from the set one down to like see if people will notice. It's like, hey, wait a minute, they're doing 98. Like they started with AC/DC bag. Now he's doing that, whatever it is. So
I know like you're sort of limited on how the licensing of it works, but have you ever synced it up to like a moment where it worked, where it's like, just weird Phish instrumental, like it does work sometimes like that, where it's kind of almost unintentional because like it's because you really have to like, when I'm helping on NFL, like I can almost think a little more like, hey, all right, if they score here, these will be good, this will be good. But if you're producing, like you just have to like. I don't really think like that. No,
just like
course.
The audio guy, my audio engineer just will.
Yeah.
He's got a list of all the stuff I like. Yeah. But so sometimes you think, oh, if they score here, and like I'm listening to where the producer's going to go, like, hey, give me the fans excited, give me the touchdown fans. Like, oh, this is gonna be perfect. But if he goes like fans and then dejection or whatever, like, that may not work. So it's like it's a little, if it does sync up like that, it's almost just like spontaneity. Like it's just like. Not really thought about it too much, but I have, but like the Super Bowl one, like that one was synced up. Like this is gonna work. So
that Super Bowl one was that was like a run. If you're a Phish fan, that was like a run through a wall moment because the way you synced it up is like
that to me. I like Ving Rhames killed it. Like he's just such a good. Like it was just so it was perfect
like
for me.
I'll never forget. I was watching that game at a buddy's bar in Brooklyn, and like. Here's the sound cranked up super loud, like it's the Super Bowl, like, everyone's having a good time. And like, I was like, Tweezer?
Exactly.
Because that's such a foreign thing, I think, for like Phish's bread and butter for 30 years was the fact that they were like not incorporated into like into big cultural moments, like
they just kind of skated along for 30 years on the outskirts, and I think they loved it like that. For one,
like sports was here, and sports is the most mainstream thing possible in culture,
right?
and like Phish is somewhere over here.
Right. like to me, I people like when you say that, but they're over here, but they have a lot of people over here.
Exactly.
And they're doing it for a long time, so they have to be doing something right. That's why I tell my buddies at work, I'm like, so this, like, I don't understand. People just go into those shows, like, yeah, like they follow them around. Like, yes, like they must be doing something right if they're just doing tours where like they're always, these are, top 10 profitable tour or whatever. So they're over there doing their own thing, but even mainstream's over here and they just kind of do their own thing. And I've heard Trey say that's the best thing for us when he does those interviews. It's like, I understand that so well, like working in this industry where it's like, God, I could just be my own creativity. I don't have to worry about listening to like Trey would say, I don't have to worry about the labels saying, hey, I don't hear a single on this, this album or something like that. It's like, that has to be just so freeing. And you have people following you. It's like, it's not like you're just doing it and 100%. No one's listening to you. It's like, well, no, people are listening to it. That's got to be so.
It's like that convergence, I think, is something that really started happening in like this like 3.0 like Phish era where like just because back in, whatever, 1.0, 2.0 in the 90s, like in early aughts, like there just wasn't as much media. There wasn't social media at all. And I feel like in 2009, after they got back together, there was kind of this spirit of like, oh, we can make Phish like fit in all these other cultural lanes. It doesn't have to just be like, Northeast liberal arts kids going to things.
They can, and then they did. And
well, you played a pretty big part of that, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's a testament to. Well, I found out, I was like, man, there are a lot of jam band fans out there that are sports fans.
Massive.
Who just want to hear just a 10-second little teaser of something.
That was whenever, one thing that I realized very early on with Bro Bible back in the day was like, we have our like point of view on sports, we have our point of view on culture, and by mixing them all together, we can like build an audience that has respect for us in a different way than like, if you're the USA Today or like some kind of like endemic thing on either side.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know what you do and you do it well. I mean, like, and you've merged the two things that are great, I think, that are like a guy wants to talk about. And I think so, but it is. So it's like,
But like sports and music and culture, like they all work together. They all have like, they're all, people don't just think of one specific thing in their existence. You know? Like otherwise, like what's the,
why would you?
That's kind of a boring life.
Very boring. Why do you want to be? I would never want to do that.
Dude, like I don't know, man. I think it's so cool how all of that came together and it still gets appreciated. How did you get into jam band stuff?
Jam bands? It was I was into a lot of different music through high school. And I think junior year high school, our cousin's brother, so he was older, he was like, hey, this is during the summer. So junior year, so I was getting him ready for my senior year, like 1992. He's like, hey, me and my buddy, we're going to go to Deer Creek, Indiana. We're going to see Grateful Dead. And maybe I'd heard of the Grateful Dead, but nothing. I didn't grow up listening to them, all that stuff. I listened to a lot of it. I was like a death metal guy. I loved like all that stuff. Yeah. So, but we went to, and it was crazy. And like we're there, we're we're parked in the parking lot, and it's me and three of my buddies, and the cousin is, I think he's probably just out of high school, so he's probably going to college. So we had the big van, and you're seeing all this, like just seeing happy, all these people, and like I'm like. And I tell these people a lot, it's like, this is 92. And like, so people just kind of, I'm telling out to my cousin, they just follow this band. They follow Grateful Dead. They they go from here to here, like, yeah. And like fast forward like 1 year and like we're planning out like a summer tour. Like I'm doing the same thing. So you get it. So that's how my love of jam bands. And then Phish came along.
So you've been to multiple like Dead like 90 shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always like I don't remember, like there was really no show that was really memorable because it was just all like Jerry was barely hanging on that time. It was,
and those were like the huge stadium shows too.
Like we would go, like I first went to college up in Bowling Green, Ohio. Yeah. So we would hit like all the Detroit shows and go down to Cleveland and maybe Chicago, like Louisville, all that area. I never really traveled out of that area to see the Dead. So I'd say I'd probably seen the Dead with Jerry. I'd say between like 10 and 12 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were you at the Deer Creek, like, gay crashing show?
Was that 92?
95? 94 or 95?
No. I would remember the gay crashing one.
Yeah.
The 92 I don't remember because I won't remember anything much of it. I just remember I was there. So you could have had a gay crash. I wouldn't remember. So, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think memorable shows of like, I just remember like there was almost just fun getting there. Like we were all getting a car from Bowling Green. We'd go to Cleveland and, you know, I don't think we had tickets. So we tried to score tickets and, you know, you're in the old like NBA arena for Cleveland. And it's just like they come out and it's just, you know, it was fun. And like you love I just loved seeing them up there. And it's just, to me, it's just crazy. Like they're up there and then they'll pack up, go to another venue, and then everyone kind of follows them to the next venue. And it's just like a traveling circus pretty much. And it's just, you get into that. And then, and it was music. It was music. It was something to do. And I mean, it's, you know, I'd like to say like, you know, Jerry like melted my face or something like that. When he probably did, maybe don't remember, but like it was more just about everything about it. Like the music was great. The friends, what we did, had the fun, like the pre and post. It was just always all a good time.
It was like sports.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like sports, but it was music, so no one loses.
Right, exactly. Which I'm like, you know, thinking about that now as a Bengals fan. It's like, that's why I go to so many concerts. It's like,
well, then how did you get into Phish?
So Phish was a little later. Like one of my buddies had a cassette tape. It was. I wish I still had it because it was Phish, but whoever gave it to him spelled it Fish.
Oh wow!
It was I think it was Junta, I believe, or it was something. It was like it sounded so bad because it was probably like a 10th generation copy or something like that. But he had this like. He was a kid named Jared. He's not with us anymore, and he was my best bud. But it's Jared. Like. He had this like he had this like BMW that guy his dad gave him. His dad was like he was pretty well off. But he was a cool kid.
Yeah.
But he had this BMW, but he hooked up with the huge stereo, the big boom box and all that, or the big subwoofers and all that stuff. So I remember he put that in there and he jammed it. Like, oh my God, like this is pretty crazy.
You're hearing like the OG Chalk Dust Torture.
Yes,
like,
exactly. So I think that's like 93. And I think I saw them 93. They played in I'm terrible with dates too. So
no, it's all good.
Everybody fact checks. Like it's 93, 94, but they played down in Cincinnati at this at like music hall, which doesn't really have they have like plays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
From when I was like back then, I was like, this is weird. They're playing like my first show, and it was they set off the fire alarm.
Oh,
so the smoke, like everyone, like I remember Trey saying, "This is not part of the show. I'm sorry, you guys everyone has to get out, and they'll figure out what's going on. You guys will let us back in." So that we all had to leave, come back out, and then like hang out there. Then they let us back in, and the show resumed, and they came out with "Fire" by Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, that's sick.
But I'm like, I sort of remember Trey's like, "Say guys, I'm sorry that's the alarm. That's not coming from us. So we do have to stop down." And they're telling us, don't worry, the show will still happen. It just was Trey was trying to control it a little bit because everybody's just going, "What the hell?" So that was the first show, and I'm like, "Oh, these guys, these are." It's just a part of, like, it was another part of Grateful Dead. Like, all right, we're going to travel around, see these guys in my little area that I can travel to. And it got me through my college years and a lot of my post 3 or 4 years of college, just having fun. And then I kind of like, I'd say around 99, or let's say probably about 2000 or so. Like when did they stop? Like
2000 was the first hiatus.
Okay, but the long one was till 2009.
Well, and then 2004, 2.0 then was the end of 2002 till summer 2004. Then after 2004 was until 2009.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So like I was like I wasn't saying I was off of them, but I just took a left turn somewhere else from about 2000 on.
Yeah.
So it was a long time before I got back on Phish. Because even when they came back, I was like, all right, I'm just not there with them. I would still want to see it, but then, I'm living in LA. I'm trying to make, trying to get
a career.
Get up at Fox, all that stuff. They would come to Hollywood Bowl, but I was never there. the thing about sports is you're always working on weekends. Even when you're a PA or a BA, you're always working. There's really no time to, and for our weekends. So, and then like I would say finally about 2018, I think I finally saw them again for the first time in a long time, probably 18 years at the Forum.
Whoa!
Yeah, at the Forum show. And it was I took my wife's never been to Phish. It's like, all right, we got to go down. And it's kind of funny. I'm like, driving in, parking at the Forum, I'm like, it's just like you see everything. Oh my God, it's just like bringing everything back. And like, I wonder if the tanks are still a thing. I open the door, and it's like you just hear it. Like, oh my God! Like this was. So I was trying to tell. It's like God, they're everywhere. I was like, yeah, I wasn't like back in the day. Like you had to like go search for them. Now they come find you. Like you're trying to have that sound. That was like a little bit of like, all right, this is still the same. This is like, but like the Shakedown Street, all that stuff. The people just were around, beers and stuff. Like, oh wow, this is pretty cool.
It was a good vibe.
It was a great vibe.
It's a great vibe to get back into.
Yeah, it was great because we had seats. So I went to the second night. They were playing 2 nights. Went to the second night, and our seatmates, he was like, "Hey man, did you see the show last night?" I was like, "Oh man, I didn't make it. Couldn't get me." I was like, "Matter of fact, this is my first show in about 18 years," and he was just like, what? He couldn't. I almost like he almost fainted. He couldn't like wrap his head around like I went that long without seeing him.
Yeah.
So they play the show. It was all in good nature. They play the show. It's great. I'm having a good time. And at the end of the encore, he looks at me. He's like, "I bet you're not going to wait 18 years to see these guys again." Like, no. I'm like, no.
Factually correct.
Exactly. You're right. He's like, you're right. I am right back. It didn't take long too. Like they come out and they play that first song and watch my wife kind of like, I've never seen around some more happy people in my life. It's just everyone's smiling, having a good time. And like right when they start, I'm like, all right, I'm right back into this. So
dude, it's funny that you say that because that's
just going to shows. I should say.
Oh, totally.
I think I was always still listening to them. Always to the stuff I should say. Preface like I wasn't like they weren't like off my radar, but I wasn't like what I am now.
I totally hear you though because and I think a lot of people had that experience because I think after they broke up. Well, it lined up just like with where I was in life in 2004.
Yeah.
Where like it was like, all right, because I graduated high school in 2004, went to Coventry. I was 18.
Oh, wow.
And like everybody's really sad, but I'm like a dumb 18-year-old. You know what I mean?
Can't really pray. I'm not really like processing the gravity of
exactly.
like what that situation
and I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to college next week. Like, you know? So
this doesn't really
see you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
And I think they would respect that. They know that.
Totally.
Like, they don't know it's like gonna,
And then it took me a while after they reunited in 2009 to actually like even get my brain to the place where I was like, oh yeah, I like Phish again. Like, you know, like it wasn't. It's not that I dislike them, but I just like had moved to different tastes.
Life.
Like,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
That's what I did. I mean, it's just you just go. There's so much good music. So and you get back into the heavy metal stuff. And sometimes you just want to hear heavy metal and you just want to hear and whatever. But it's like, seeing them now, like when they're like the latest few shows, it's so awesome just to see how like what they've all been through. Yeah. Especially Trey and just how he's kind of come out on the other end just with this perspective of like, this is us. This is who we are. But I'm having such a good time doing it. And they seem like they're just happy. And it just shows in those shows. Yeah. He loves, he respects and appreciates that this crowd is still like, I don't know how. I'd love to hear him just like how he can process just this fan base just always there for you. Yeah. And like no matter what it is, you can't take that away. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. And just where they are and where he is, it's fun to see that.
And that truly is like a with great power comes great responsibility thing too, because like, I mean, you constantly hear from other people in the music industry that wish they had like what Phish has.
Right.
And like, and you also, though, start thinking about, like, well, you probably wouldn't use it in a, like, actual, like, responsible way if you did have that,
Right. You gotta, the power is enticing and power is very...
Exactly. Did you go to any shows this summer?
I went to the Dover show.
You went to Mondegreen?
Yes,
you
Mondegreen.
You went to the festival?
First festival. I've never been to a
But
Phish
you've been
festival.
to Dover. You've been to
plenty of times. It was the best of both because it was like, oh, I can see this. Usually I'm there for NASCAR, and I saw what they did to Miles the Monster. They put like the moo on him and stuff. And then, but I've never been to a festival, a Phish festival. So that was awesome. It was a eye-opening. And
how was the secret set?
It was awesome. It was great. It was it was sort of like to me it was like, all right, that curtain's gonna come up any second. Then like after the first song, like, all right, this is it. Yeah. And like I was like, I can't wait to see some of the videos. So I want to see what's going on in there. Yeah. Because it looked cool from where we were, because it was like ambient and just like all like the ethereal sounds, and it was cool. So and I feel like it was well received. People were. I feel like that was it.
Their creativity for just, like you work in the world of production. You understand how the scale that you have to be on to do something like that. Yeah. Like
that's I can see like, Chris Kuroda, the lighting director, he's got a rig that's God knows how much, how expensive that, who knows, but he uses it and they know how to do it. That's Phish. They've been around. That's why I'm so amazed with what Goose is doing so early on in their career. That lighting rig they have, I'd love to know how much that costs and like how they're paying for that, all that stuff. Just stuff like probably no one thinks about.
It's an investment.
But when I see that, I'm like, that is like, because I saw that you see them pre and post lighting rig. Like the next, you're like, whoa, what? Because in my mind, I know that probably takes 2 semis to get it to and from. With 2 semis, you probably have a lot of utilities. I like getting that stuff and getting that stuff, and then just the computer to like program. Like that's how my mind works. And I know Goose is, they're pretty popular, but they're still very young, and they're still like, they're not, their shows, their tickets not very expensive, and I don't know how much. I guess that's an investment, I think. Yeah. And I think we were talking about that at JRAD. Yeah. We're like, God, I know Joey Russo just probably doesn't want anything.
Yeah. Lights.
But I would love to see them with sort of a light setup. To me, that's a cost. That's a cost of.
But you got to experience Goose do like the big thing. And I think it's cool to see the evolution because if you just started going to a Phish show right now, you would think that it was always like this without knowing the kind of knowing the history when they were like playing with hockey sticks and stuff like that.
Exactly. I love that. You've probably done that. You probably have this a lot too, just in LA. But the progression of bands that come out here, they start. I remember it's like I think Alabama Shakes. Love them. So I saw them in like Pomona first time. Then they're at like the Music Box. The Fonda or whatever, and then they're at the Greek, and so I've been to each one. I'm like, wow, I'm like watching them kind of just
make the
move up to bigger venues.
I mean, I just saw that with 2 in the I don't know. I hate to say in the jam band world, but like Billy Strings, I saw that with I saw him in the Lodge Room initially in Highland Park, and now he's like at the Forum, and and same with King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Yeah. Like they've gone the fact that they're playing the Forum too now is like. And the crowd is there, man, and people are so into it.
King Gizzard at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah, dude, at the Hollywood Bowl. That's crazy.
And it was like, that's a great show because they're popular, but not, in LA, they probably have just enough. And it's like, but so tickets are.
Because LA's a hard market.
Yeah, tickets aren't expensive. So I can get close and get a great, selfishly, but I knew about them through the Phish, through Twitter and stuff. I never heard of them, but then Trey popped up at a show, I think. So I saw that picture. Yeah. And oh, look at that. Trey's checking out, King Gizzard. So I listened to it. I was like, holy shit, these guys are awesome.
Dude, it's the best,
and they're different. Yeah.
It's such a great, music. I like to call it, musical worlds. It's a musical world that, I think just has all these different layers and nuances. And, dude, they stream all their concerts now for free, which is,
oh, dude, I didn't know
it's a great way to hook you right there. Yeah. When you can sit at home and watch a show for free.
Exactly. That's Phish and go like that. I don't think jam band gives enough credit for doing like streaming stuff.
100% not.
I mean,
because they blazed the trail for that
Yeah.
in music like back in 2010, 2011. And like now everybody does it.
is that when that started pretty much? Like in 2010?
Yeah.
Like
and I think they were like, they had to have like a deal server wise, I think with like MLB in order to do it and whole, like stuff like that. I don't know where I heard that from, but like, but like,
I would bet.
Well, the technology at the time wasn't that sophisticated. So like, you know,
but
like,
I always love that. Like if they, if I want to, watch a show, it's just so cool. I love how they just put the first song on YouTube, though.
Yeah.
That's always a good
The
thing.
best.
Because the first song at the concert is like, how good, like there's nothing better than that feeling when you're at the concert, you just got to your seats, you can hear like the crowd murmuring and you're excited, get your beer, and then the lights come out and then boom, everyone is just, then you're kind of get into like, all right, where are they going to, that's why I love Phish. Like, all right, what's the opener? What's the opener going to be? And, I always, because you can't really, you can kind of tell what an opener's going to be from most shows because you can look on set lists and stuff. But that's a show you can't. Like Goose, Phish, all those jam bands, like you don't know what that set's going to be.
Yeah, that's why with our group of friends and my brother, who I've been to scores and scores and scores of shows with, like we always like to do like a pick'em game, like where it's like, here's this catalog of music and you have to kind of think through it strategically, and it's, so it's like fantasy football.
You pick what, the set list? Or
we pick 5 songs in a juicer that we think are going to play. A juicer's 2x points.
I love it.
And usually we'll round robin it with like 6 people, so like there will be 30 songs on the board.
Oh wow.
And like sometimes you get skunked like in your picks, and then sometimes you'll like crush it.
So like is this for like any show? Right?
Any show.
Not that you have to be that. That's cool.
Like we typically do. It's more fun in person, and then we'll add stakes. It'll be like, oh, you have to buy me beer. If you
much better. The bragging rights of it. Nothing better than a beer you've won.
Yeah, exactly. It's the best.
It's like that's got to be. I see those lists like the top 5 beers. Beers like won on like a bet or up there.
Very up there.
Yeah.
Well, dude, Jake. This is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to talk about.
I can't believe you get to do this for your job. Like just get there and talk about music, sports,
life, life in LA, the internet.
Awesome.
It's the best. Well, thank you so much for joining, man.
This is awesome.
We'll have to have you back on again.
Yes, for sure.